Hi, everyone, and welcome to this session at the February quarterly meeting. This session is an orientation to the Open Badges ecosystem, and I'm pleased to introduce our presenters today, Alex Hripak from Credly and Justin Pitcher from Anthology. Both Alex and Justin have been longtime leaders in the Open Badges work at IMS, even predating the work at IMS. We're very pleased to have them provide some introductory information about Open Badges. The session really is designed to give people an orientation to Open Badges and to help people get started with their projects. If you have any questions throughout the session, feel free to put them in the chat. We will have a moment or two at the end to open up microphones and ask your questions that way. And if you need any follow-up information, I will put my email in the chat. And I probably didn't even introduce myself. I'm Jeff Bohrer, Technical Program Manager at IMS Global and Program Manager for our digital credentials work. So happy to be with you. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Alex and Justin for further introductions and to start the session.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And hello, everyone. Welcome to Getting Started with Open Badges 2.0 ecosystem. My name is Alex, and I'm joined with Justin Pitcher. I'll introduce myself first, and I'll have Justin introduce himself as well. So I'm VP of Technology at Credly. Credly is a Open Badges compliant platform, and we've been in the credentialing space since the early days when the spec was funded by the MacArthur Foundation under the leadership of Mozilla. And we've since grown to a rather large size, being one of the leading credentialing providers in the space. But we're happy to also serve as the chair of the Open Badges work group, working with many of the organizations who are present here on the call today, in addition to all the customers that we have. So we're here to make sure we create a standard and an ecosystem that is compliant, both in similar data specification, but also in how we conduct our platforms and what kinds of features we provide. Justin?
Hi, everybody. Justin Pitcher. I'm a product development manager at Anthology. Anthology is a recent product of a merger of several legacy companies, most notably Campus Management and Campus Labs and iModules. One of the products that I manage is the Milestone platform. It's an Open Badges host and issuing system, once formerly known as MyMantle. If we go far enough back, we've been involved through various company identities with the Open Badges group since I think 2006. I want to go back, or 2016. I mean, first started presenting about our involvement in the ecosystem in Boston in August of 2016, I think is what it is. So I've had the pleasure of working with Alex on the subject for a number of years now, and I'm really happy to talk about how you can get involved with this ecosystem.
Thank you, Justin. So we'll just jump right into it, really. Open Badges, it's a pretty simple concept, and I say that because I've been working in it for years now, but it really is simple in the sense that we made it as approachable as we possibly could, while meeting the needs of what we're trying to provide here. But at the core, Open Badges are verifiable, portable, and they have a lot of rich metadata about the skills and achievements that an individual has been recognized for by a organization or another entity. And so some of the key data elements in Open Badges are the issuer, so what organization or person issued the badge to the recipient, which is also included in this, an image, because often we like to represent these accomplishments with a kind of capstone image that gives some sense of brand or recognition, so people can easily identify what that person accomplished. But also some really important things like the issue date, when that achievement was actually issued or earned. Be able to verification, so that can happen in a couple different ways, which we'll go into in a second. But also the criteria. So what types of activities did a person have to do in order to receive this credential, as well as evidence. So if there were material items that were produced as a result of whatever exercise they did, maybe it's a grade of an assessment or a project that they created in order to receive this. Those things could be evidence. Alignments, because we are, quite friendly with the higher ed and just general ecosystem of learning. There are standards out there, of course, where we want to be able to align these credentials to. That way, the person viewing the credential can better understand what does this relate to in terms of maybe a bit more granular, like types of skills that might be associated with this credential, but as well as endorsements. So many times another organization or even a person could endorse this credential and say, this is something that we stand behind. And in many ways, the issuer is an endorser of the badge itself, but there could always be third party endorsements too. Um, so some of the benefits of open badges: verifiability with the source of truth. It's easy for someone to create a PDF or piece of paper that says I did these things, and unfortunately, for better or worse, we do that every day with resumes currently. But the nice thing about badges is that they're verifiable in the sense that you can always call home or uh, make an assertion in such a way that you can say this data was actually created by another organization that is vouching for this individual or other entity. Um, and because of how the badges have been structured, they're also portable, which is really helpful when it comes time to making them useful, whether that be in a human capital management decision or simply aggregating your credentials into a single place. You want that portability aspect there, and that's what Open Badges helps provide. Um, but also like transparency for the viewers. I said earlier, like they're able to look at the metadata of the badge and see what actually went into the earning of that badge, and that offers a great deal of transparency for someone. Because if you're looking at a resume and you see that they earned a degree or earned a certification from somewhere, you may not completely understand all the little bits and bobs that went into that. But and then this really provides a way for you to dig a bit deeper into that data. Um, a wonderful aspect of open badges too, not necessarily dealing with the data itself, but just the kind of activities that go on, is really an engagement with recipients. They're able to now demonstrate and kind of showcase their achievements to a greater audience. We usually see this in the form of social media shares, but it could also be in other ways too, which is great for both the recipient, but also for the issuing organization, because that helps even more increase brand recognition and value. And if you're in the business of selling seats for an assessment, that's great for you because you get basically free advertising from your current audience. Um, and then lastly, not conclusive, but these are some of the key benefits, in my opinion. Incremental recognition. So oftentimes you'll earn a Uber credential or a degree from somewhere or something else, some certificate program, uh, and that's great, that's wonderful, you're able to showcase that eventually. But sometimes you might not complete those programs completely. The rate of students dropping out of programs is higher than I'm sure many people would like, and unfortunately for the student, it means that they have now received really nothing for the m- uh, money that they put into that, or time and energy. So when you structure your program around badges, you're able to provide incremental recognition, which may actually be really useful to that recipient along their career path. So if they're working towards a large achievement, for them to be able to earn that incremental recognition is actually really helpful for them. So backing up a bit, in our in our specification, we have roles that we've defined around capabilities, more or less. So in Open Badges platforms and at IMS Global, you are able to get certified in these 3 roles: issuer, host, and displayer. Um, the short of it is that the issuer creates badge classes, which are basically like templates or things that can be achieved. And then the issuer creates assertions from those. And those are the actual instances of those badge classes being awarded to a recipient. A host can then allow recipients to take those assertions and put them in the host. And then that host can make use of those assertions, whether it be sharing out to social media, connecting to another destination like an applicant tracking system or something else. It's often like when you hear, backpack, you think of that's what you're thinking of as a host. And then also a displayer is a system by which you can read or render open badge data. So this often gets paired with an issuer or a host because those systems are either storing or moving around assertions. So generally, they're able to show those things as well. But it wouldn't be open badges if things weren't portable. And early on, we only had this concept of baking pretty much, which, we said that open badges are an image, and images can contain metadata. You might know this, like if you post an image on Instagram, you might include a location with that. Or if you take take a photo on your iPhone or Android device, it might include location data with that as well. We do something similar with baked badges. We take the link or the actual assertion JSON object and then put it into the image or SVG. That enables us to let earners take and move their assertions elsewhere. And you can also do this by directly linking or just providing the JSON LD object or a link to that JSON LD object on the web. And that's another way platforms can work as well. But for the past, I want to say 2 years, we've been working on a way to uh, more or less deprecate baking or linking directly to the resource, and rather making it so systems can connect easily and talk to each other, which we call Badge Connect 2.1, where a recipient can essentially go through an OAuth process to authorize a consumer to send their assertions to a provider, which is great. And Justin will talk about that actually right now, I think. Yeah. Justin?
Hi, so Badge Connect is really what we call the Open Badge 2.1 update to the standard. So everything about that is really taking the benefits of Open Badge 2.0 and extending it with features that allow us for the idea of a federated ecosystem of backpacks and issuers to move those assertions around more programmatically. So if you can think about the user experience of a learner, especially in the context of lifelong learning and not just an individual experience at one institution, they might want to start establishing singular places where their badge assertions are available for curation and showcasing and that kind of thing. So you'll hear people talk about open badges as being portable, but they're really quote unquote portable. So that image, for example, in the baked badge, we use image files because that's just a really common transport mechanism. Everybody knows how to download an image file, to attach it to an email, send it, and that kind of thing. But we don't have notwithstanding any custom integrations between platforms, a good way for users to move baked badges around en masse, that data package that's inside the image. So right now, you would have to say, if I had 15 badges in one platform and I wanted to move them into another, I'd have to one at a time download each of those and then go into the new one and re-upload them one at a time. And that would just take forever. And if we imagine a world where people are earning dozens or hundreds of badges in their lifetime over multiple experiences and institutions, that just doesn't scale. So we need this idea of true portability where the systems can talk to each other and give those recipients the agency to store and showcase their content wherever they want. And then by doing this in a standardized way, it makes it really easy and inexpensive for platforms to join the ecosystem. They don't have to develop one-off integrations with each separate popular platform. They can basically just jump into it, and our standards around automatic registration and discoverability make it so that you as an existing platform don't need to know about a new one joining. Only the user needs to know that it exists, and the standard will take care of itself for connecting those two systems up. You can go ahead. So just a little bit of a summary. The Open Badge itself, so it's a standardized digital record of achievement. The badge itself is really the block of data, not the image. The image is just a mechanism to move it around. If you want more information about open badges in general and some of the topics that we discussed, we have a great website, openbadges.org, has all kinds of information about this subject. And then just a little summary of those roles and how the ecosystem works. So you have issuers here on the top left. They are creating badge classes, which are like the blueprint for a badge. They award the individual assertions to earners. Those earners can store those assertions in hosts, and then the host/displayer systems know how to read and interpret that data and show it to external audiences. And through that, there are mechanisms for doing verification of both the badge class and the issuer identity and the recipient identity. So CLR, very popular subject right now. Some of you might be exploring the use of CLR and wondering how this all fits in with that. So CLR itself was actually developed with open badges in mind. If you go all the way back to the extended transcript, there's a lot of overlap with the way these two standards operate at a data model. So the CLR itself can contain a recipient's badges, but then other types of records of achievement. So we can really think about a CLR as a container of which some of those data types could be open badge assertions. So if we move to the next slide here, if we look at a CLR package, really, so the package itself has like a publisher and a learner and some information about it and like verification instructions. And then inside that package is a whole bunch of achievement records. And those can be from different issuers with different types of achievement, different types of assertions. And then it happens to be that an open badge as represented inside a CLR is where, you know, your open badge assertion is an assertion record, achievement record inside that CLR package, and the achievement itself, that is the badge class. And it would just coexist with other types seamlessly. And the data modeling itself all looks very familiar and similar between the two different standards. And so if you are interested in getting started with open badges, again, there's that openbadges.org website, which has all the information you really need to get a good grasp of what we just talked about. There's the digital badges section that's on the IMS Global website as well. If you have some badges or you want to like experiment with some stuff, there is an Open Badges 2.0 validator. And so this allows you to take like whether you have a baked image or a block of JSON data for a badge, put it in there, do some verification and validation testing on it, and see what comes out and get an understanding of sort of how it works. And then the actual specification with examples and all the modeling is available at openbadgespec.org. Note that it's open badge spec, not open badges spec. Sometimes people add an extra S in there, and that'll get you to that. I suppose another one that we could add is if you are an IMS member and you're interested in participating in the technical working group, that is an option as well. And maybe if Jeff has more information on how to get joining on that, he can speak up at the end. But right now, there's tremendous growth, especially in the last few years. It's kind of amazing to see. So we now have 24 Open Badge 2.0 certified programs. Our platforms, I should say. And then with OB 2.1, with all this Badge Connect stuff, we're in the finalizing stages of the conformance and certification suite. So we're hoping to see plenty of platforms add a 2.1 certification to their existing 2.0, which would be fabulous. And that's everything. So we have 9 minutes left for questions. I know, Jeff, you've been monitoring the chat. I don't know if there's anything you want to specifically call out.
Thanks, Justin and Alex. Great orientation. There was kind of a discussion about the role of common cartridge and open badges. It's a bit of an unknown. We don't quite have the common cartridge experts on the call, but I was doing a little bit of digging, and IMS has actually analyzed the intersections of many of these different specifications, and we don't. The intersection of common cartridges and open badges is actually empty. So I'm going to do a little digging and follow up with Natalie on the call. I wanted to mention the technical work group. If you're interested in jumping in and joining our calls, we meet twice a month on Thursdays at 11 o'clock Eastern, and I will put the link in the chat. These are open to IMS contributing members, so your membership level does have to be a contributing membership level. But for those that are eligible, you're welcome to join in on those calls if you're interested. And so Justin and Alex, a question from Mike about anyone trying to combine the open badges with blockchain.
Yeah, so where blockchains come into play is really about having this decentralized ledger for verification, tamper evidence of records. There is an existing extension to open badges that works with block certs. I believe, Alex, over at Credly, you have implemented that extension. Correct me if I'm wrong?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, it uses it uses block certs and Merkle roots to anchor assertions to Bitcoin or Ethereum. But yeah.
Now, on top of that, the working group itself has explored and discussed at a more superficial level the next iterations of the open badge standard and how we might more formally make recommendations and support for things like blockchain. If you look at standards like the W3's verifiable credentials standard, there are opportunities for us to use existing standards as a way to get around this and not have to implement specific extensions or platforms and deal with it in a more agnostic way. So it is a topic of conversation, but there are no official recommendations. But you could, as far as I know today, use the W3's verifiable credentials.
You know, we talk about verification, and people often think blockchain is the only way to get verifiable credentials in a way. But can you just reiterate the verification capabilities of open badges natively?
Yep. So currently we support two types of verification, hosted and signed. Hosted essentially means that all of the JSON LD resources that back your open badge are hosted via HTTP. And that's a pretty common way people do things, just because it's very simple to host a JSON file on a URL. But another way that people do this as well is through signed assertions, where basically you're creating a JSON web token out of the same JSON LD that you would have hosted on a URL. The downside to the signed assertion is that you have to point to HTTP resources, specifically the issuer profile and the public keys associated with that, so you can perform the verification of the JSON web token. So it's not like completely off the internet, as I think a lot of people using signed assertions would prefer, but it's still a core method or native method, as Jeff says, to the spec. We are always looking at changing that possibility. Justin mentioned block certs, and we have a subgroup in the Open Badge group that's working on adding DID support. And I think at some point that will turn into verifiable credential support with open badges, even though they technically can support it today, but a more like formal approach as to how we might do it as a work group or community rather, which may get us closer to having open badges that aren't dependent on HTTP resources, period, which might be of interest to a lot of parties. But that is the current state of where we're at. verification.
Thank you. Any other questions? I think we've scoured the chat for any questions that have been posed.
I'm just thinking a little bit more about Common Cartridge. Unfortunately, a lot of LMSs don't support badges yet. And I think we'd like to change that. And, you know, maybe Common Cartridge might help. And the reason I mentioned that is because I don't think Common Cartridge is appropriate for badging platforms specifically, at least as far as I understand that spec. So really, I think your idea with Common Cartridge would be to, if the badges are issued from an LMS, they would be included in that cartridge, that you could move to other courses, making it easier to like set up, you know, where badges are issued and how and what criteria. So definitely something we can look into, but yeah.
Yeah, Natalie, is that the use case that you had in mind? Sorry to put you on the spot, but is the use case for importing available badges associated with, say, an assignment or a course?
Yeah, I was, you know, we're putting together a curriculum library, and if we have both, you know, Common Cartridge moving all this curriculum around, and we have some sort of badge system, maybe someday, it would be really convenient if the badge and the curriculum were packaged together. So like if you got a new piece of curriculum and it has a badge that you can earn by completing the curriculum, it would be nice if it came with it. Sounds like it isn't yet. So while I'm building my import tool, I don't have to worry about it yet, but down the road, it would be nice to have it all packaged up.
Yeah, I totally hear you that on that one, especially because like Credly itself does support Canvas and Bridge, and we're working on support for other LMSs like D2L. But yeah, there is a pain in like copying, you know, the rules or criteria between courses, and you know, Common Cartridge support might help with that. Yeah, and course copying is a very difficult subject, and it's nice that cartridge exists, but yeah, I agree, it would be helpful.
Great. Thank you guys for all of your input and all the discussion. That was great.
Thank you.
We actually have a way of kind of capturing these use cases and documenting them internally. So I think I'm going to run this use case internally. I think it's the first time, to my knowledge, that it's been raised. So good idea. Appreciate the idea. Any other questions? Well, if not, thank you, Alex and Justin, for your time preparing the information. Welcome to anyone that may be new to the Open Badges world. Feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat one last time in case you missed it at the beginning. But if you want to get connected to any resources or people or meetings, feel free to just reach out and ask. So thanks for your time. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you again soon.